Have you ever found yourself in a relationship that just feels off? Like you're not really sure if you guys are in love or maybe if it's just toxic. Well, today we're diving into the warning signs of a toxic relationship that you definitely don't want to ignore. But before we jump into this, my name is Edison Cordero. This is The Lion's Den. If you gain any value from today's video, all I ask is that you subscribe and share this with a friend or somebody that can also benefit from it. So without further ado, let's begin. So let's get real for a second. Toxic relationships are a lot more common than most of you think. As a matter of fact, they're extremely common. About majority of people are currently in a toxic relationship, whether they recognize it as a toxic relationship or they don't. The unfortunate reality is a lot of people mistake this for love. A lot of people think that this toxic relationship they're in is a sign that the love is pure or true. For example, their partner is super jealous of them, super controlling, and they see it as something that, oh, my partner just loves me, so they're overprotective of me. But in reality, that's never really the case scenario. So the reason why uncovering these signs of a toxic relationship is vitally important is because if you don't notice them early on, this toxic relationship can over time become worse and worse and affect your own mental health. But most importantly, it'll affect the way you view relationships in the future as well. So before we jump right into the signs, I'm going to share a little story with you guys. So I was talking to a young lady who was telling me about her toxic relationship that she was in. And everything that she described is what most people are going through. For example, thinking she could fix her partner, thinking that her partner loved her, but maybe it was her fault that he was acting a certain way, that maybe she was the crazy one, or maybe he's just going through a few things, but then over time you realize that he's been going through a few things for a little bit over a year now, and he's still the same way, right? So she started to believe that she was the problem in this relationship, that she was the reason why he was acting the way he was acting, and that she was crazy. But in reality, one thing that's worth noting when it comes to a toxic partner is they have an incredible ability to make you feel like you're the crazy one or to make you feel like you're the problem. And no matter how many times you work on yourself and change yourself and try to change to become a better person for them, you recognize that it's always a problem. Nothing ever seems to resolve itself and nothing ever seems to get better. And that's because they're doing a fantastic job at constantly manipulating you into believing that there is something wrong with you. And most of you are in a relationship where you're being manipulated into believing there's something wrong with you. Most of you are in a relationship where you're being manipulated into believing you're crazy, or you're being manipulated into believing you're a bad person. And what this ends up causing is you end up thinking that you need to change yourself for your partner, or you need to change yourself before your relationship fails, not realizing that your relationship was never going to fail because it was never there to begin with. There was never any love between you two. The only thing is your partner saw a perfect opportunity to take advantage of somebody that didn't recognize that they were being a victim to a toxic partner or a narcissistic partner. And you fell for every single thing that they laid out for you. They wanted you to feel like you were crazy. You believed them. They wanted you to feel like you were unworthy of love or trust. You believed them. But they do it in a way where you don't expect them to want to hurt you because you expect them to love you. So, how can we identify these signs of a toxic partner? Let's jump right into that. Here are some key signs that you are in a toxic relationship. Number 1, constant criticism. Now, if your partner is always putting you down or making you feel bad about yourself, then that is a huge red flag that you should notice right off the bat. Because constructive feedback is one thing, but if it seems like they're always trying to tear you down, then that's another. And that's something that's worth reevaluating when it comes to your relationship. So if instead of constructive criticism where the end goal is to resolve something, they instead decide to talk about the things within your character that are problematic or that they hate, but then when it comes to resolving it, they're not interested in discussing that, then you can almost guarantee that what they're trying to do is tell you how shitty of a person you are and basically point out all of these traits within you to either make you insecure or to make you feel like it's hard for you to be loved, which makes you appreciate their love more and crave their love more. Number 2 is the need to be in control. In other words, the need to control you. Now, here's how that can happen. Do they constantly check your phone? Do they constantly ask you for the passwords to your social media accounts, your phone, and everything else in between? Do they always want to know your whereabouts? And whenever you decide to go out with your friends and enjoy yourself, do they question who you're going out with and try to dictate who you can and can't hang out with? If this sounds like your relationship, then unfortunately, that's not love. That's control. Because true love thrives on trust, not on control. Now, number 3 is going to be one of the most common and probably my favorite thing to talk about and tell people, and that's going to be gaslighting. I want to talk about gaslighting a little bit. I've heard that term thrown around quite a bit, but could you break it down in a way that's easier for our viewers to understand?
Are you going to ask the question?
I just did.
No, you didn't.
That was the question.
You didn't ask the question.
Can you break it down in a way that's easier for our viewers to understand? That's
You never asked that. That is the form of gaslighting. You sit there, they make you feel crazy.
Now, a lot of people don't recognize when they're being victims of gaslighting in their relationship. But my question to you is, whenever a situation plays out and you remember it vividly and it upsets you and you try to address it to your partner, and whenever you try to address it, they try to play the, oh, what are you talking about? Oh, that never happened. And rather than owning up to it and admitting to it and apologizing, they just say that never happened. Oh, you're just being crazy. Oh, you're delusional, this, that, and the third. If that's the case scenario, then there is a high likelihood that you were a victim of gaslighting. But gaslighting extends far beyond that as well. Because if your partner tries to make you doubt your own memories and your own feelings, then that's a huge indicator of manipulation taking place. In other words, gaslighting, because in terms, gaslighting is a form of manipulation where they get you to believe that there is something wrong with you or that you're just delusional. And it's important to acknowledge this early on because you deserve to be heard and understood. You don't deserve to feel like you're going crazy. Number 4 is going to be lack of support. So relationships usually thrive off of mutual support. You support their dreams, they support your dreams. However, if you notice that there is a significant lack of support from your partner, then this can be a huge red flag and an indicator that you might be in a toxic relationship. In the end, a relationship should always lift you up, not bring you down. So if your partner is dismissive of your achievements or doesn't support your dreams, then it's a sign to reconsider your relationship because either 1, they just don't support you, or 2, you guys just don't value the same thing. And number 5 is going to be emotional roller coaster. You feel like you're walking on eggshells in your relationship. You try to not offend your partner. You try to say things and do things in a way where your partner won't get upset with you because you fear the retaliation that's going to come behind it. If this sounds like you, then your relationship is potentially toxic. If you feel like you have to walk on eggshells because you're afraid of offending or hurting your partner, then there's a high likelihood that you're in a toxic relationship. A relationship at the end of the day should leave you feeling secure in it, not fearful or not anxious, waiting for the next moment when your partner is going to blow up. And if you're staying in a relationship that you're constantly walking on eggshells to not offend your partner, it's not love, it's fear that you're holding on to. I mean, there's other classic signs that we'll bring up too, which is going to be like jealousy, mood swings, and even a complete disregard for your own boundaries as well. The thing about these behaviors is they can all seem small on their own, but the thing is, if you allow it to pile up, then what it ends up doing is it creates an environment that ends up being nearly impossible for you to escape from, and it almost suffocates you. You feel like you're a prisoner. You feel like you can't escape where you are or the situation that you're in out of fear of what can happen to you. And then now what I want to do is I want to take a moment to highlight some of the surprising signs that you might not notice or might not consider to be red flags that typically are. And one of them is going to be lack of responsibility. So did you know that if your partner refuses to accept responsibility for anything, that's a huge red flag? Failing to take responsibility for their actions should come off to you as potentially toxic. And now let's talk about those jokes that they make as well. Paying attention to your partner's jokes can very much save you a lot of time, heartache, and headache. The reason I say that is because of this. If your partner's way of joking around hurts you, and if your partner makes jokes that tend to cut deep because they attack a part of you that you're insecure about, or they attack you personally, then you should see that as a red flag and potentially toxic behavior from your partner. Your partner should joke around with you in a form where you both find it humorous, not that they find it humorous and you find it highly offensive because they attack either, like I said, one of your insecurities, or they just pass a certain boundary that you told them not to, or whatever the case may be. So now that I've laid these out, I want to hear your stories. Have you dealt with anything similar, or have you had your own experience of toxicity within your relationship that you'll like to share with others to prevent them from going through the same thing that you went through? Comment down below. Let us know what you dealt with. Let us know what your experiences are. And most importantly, let us know what helped you get out of your situation. And lastly, if there is one takeaway that I can leave you with from this video, it is to always trust your gut. If you feel like there is something off in your relationship, or you feel like there is something wrong, you're almost 100% right majority of the time. And if you continue to ignore this, you end up committing yourself to this toxic relationship that slowly but surely sucks the life out of you and becomes nearly impossible for you to escape from. And majority of people that are in a toxic relationship at some point within this relationship had a gut feeling that there was something wrong with the relationship they were in. But unfortunately, they were convinced that they were the problem and they were the crazy one, and they believed it. And because of it, they stood in this relationship that only did more harm than good to them. Just make sure that you reflect on the importance of identifying a toxic relationship. You don't deserve to be in a relationship that makes you question your worth. You don't deserve to be with somebody that's going to constantly belittle you and make you feel like you're worthless. At the end of the day, if your partner cannot simply treat you right, and if you notice that there is a huge lack of communication within your relationship, then you should probably reconsider it, because your mental health and your well-being is not worth being sacrificed for somebody else's happiness. And majority of the time, the toxic partner thrives and feels great when they see you miserable. If you found this video helpful in any way, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. As always, it's a pleasure, and stay tuned to the next episode.